Hi everyone, my name is Rahul Shajan. I'm doing my MBA specialized in finance in Dublin Business School. Today I'm going to talk about my topic for my research method, a study of factors having an impact on credit growth in public sector banks and private sector banks. I'm starting with my introduction. The banking industry in the world over has undergone a profound transformation since the early 1990s. The changed operating environment for the banking sector, underpinned by liberalization, privatization, and globalization, coupled with the reforms of information technology, has resulted in intense competitive pressures. Banks have responded to this challenge by diversifying through organic growth of existing businesses as well as through creative marketing of its services. But the risk factor of banks are increasing. Risk in inherent is any walk of life in general and in financial sectors is in particular. Till recently, due to regulatory environment, banks could not afford to take risk. But of late, banks are exposed to same competition and hence are compelled to encounter various types of financial and non-financial risk. Risk and uncertainties form an integral part of banking, which by nature entails taking risk. There are three main categories of risk: credit risk, market risk, and operational risk. Credit risk is intrinsic to banking and it is as old as banking itself. Credit risk is defined as the possibility of losses associated with diminution in the credit quality of borrowers or counterparties. In a bank's portfolio, losses stem from outright default due to inability or unwillingness of a customer or counterparty to meet commitments in relation to lending, trading, settlement, and other financial transactions. Alternatively, losses result from reduction in portfolio value arising from actual or perceived deterioration in credit quality. Credit risk emanates from a bank's dealings with an individual, corporate, bank, financial institution, or a sovereign. I choose this topic because I worked in a bank. I know the way how the credit growth is affecting the bank in different ways. That's why I choose this topic as my research topic. And my research question: what are the factors that have an impact on credit growth in public sector banks and private sector banks? And explanation: to study the impact of certain factors on credit growth in public and private sector bank, and also to compare the credit growth between the public and private sector bank in India. And the research hypothesis: the demand function and supply function. The function: there is no significant impact of gross NPA, growth in non-SLR investments, and return on advances on credit growth in scheduled commercial banks. And supply function: there is no significant impact of deposit growth, capital to risk weighted asset ratio, excess of return on advances over return on investment ratio of net interest margin to total asset and ratio of government securities to total asset on credit growth in scheduled commercial banks. Literature review: numerous studies have been directed by scientists on NPA in saving mining industry. The analyst has made endeavors to introduce a brief survey of the writing accessible which are distributed as examination articles and specialized papers distributed in the journals, magazines and sites in the rated zone. Cowrie 2001 studied the non-performing resources of different banks and recommended different systems to decrease the degree of NPAs. Ranjan Ardhar: this paper explores an empirical approach to the analysis of the Indian commercial banks' non-performing loans by regression analysis. The empirical analysis evaluates as to how the NPLs are influenced by three major set of economic and financial factors, either terms of credit, bank size, induced risk preferences, and macroeconomic shocks. These are the two books which I have to work out with the given details in the given mention in the book. Contextualization: in this topic, secondary research is more important than the primary because the data from the banks is very difficult to get. From the website of Reserve Bank of India, and from some of the articles I can get the required information. Methodology. The present study depends on descriptive study, where the approach used to gather the information depends on secondary information such as books, report of RBI published including trend and progress of banking in India, statistical tables identifying with banks in India, articles and papers identifying with NPAs, distributed in various journals and magazines were concentrated on, and information accessible on web and different sources have additionally been utilized. Research philosophy. In this research, a interpretive philosophy will be followed because most of the questions should be answered in qualitative and quantitative method. Research approach. Research will take after the inductive analysis approach since it incorporates the procedure of subjective information gathering and create speculations from the data collected for analyzing. Research strategy. In this strategy, I would like to include there is significant impact of growth in non-SLR investments. There is significant impact of growth grows NPA on credit growth. There is significant impact of return on advances. There is significant impact on deposit. There is significant impact on capital to risk weighted asset ratio. There is significant impact of excess of return on advances over return on investment. There is significant impact of ratio of net interest margin to total assets. Research choice. I would like to follow the quantitative and qualitative data analysis choice. Both methods will result in my decision in a big way as I need secondary information and primary information for my topic. Sampling. Most researchers are constrained by time, money, and workforce. And because of these limitations, it is almost impossible to randomly sample the entire people, and it is often necessary to employ another sampling technique, the non-profitable probability sampling technique. I would like to collect data by convenience sampling and consecutive sampling technique. Data collection. Personal interviews with the managers of private sector and public sector of 2. Interviews with the staff working in public sector and private sector of 3 to 5. Data analysis. Data would be analyzed with two factors, demand factor and supply factor. Plan for completion. The topic should be approved first, and after that I would like to start with the secondary research. After preparing the questionnaire for the interview with the employees, the primary research will be done, and finally interpretation of the evidence for the dissertation. Research ethics. I believe I am the type of person who can make difficult ethical decisions that may not always be the most popular ones, but they are usually the correct ones. I feel that things should be done in a proper manner and rules and regulations should be strictly followed. Some of the ethical values I would like to follow are: I will not plagiarize the work of others, I will preserve privacy and confidentiality whenever possible, I will be kind to the people from whom I will be collecting the data. Research limitations. Every study has certain limitations. Same is true with this study also. Some of the limitations faced during this study are: for the purpose of this study, only 3 or maximum 5 years data will be taken. Data will be collected from maximum 4 banks, that is 2 public and 2 private sector banks. And these are my references. Thank you.